Hi there. Thanks for joining me here on Conversations for Yoga Teachers. I'm your host, Karen Fabian, the founder of Bare Bones Yoga and the creator of the Momentum Magic Method, the way to become a confident teacher, one who effortlessly walks around the room, shares clear cues, easily builds sequences, and speaks from your heart, sharing authentically with your students. Here on the podcast, you'll discover new and inspiring ways to share your cues and create your sequences. You'll uncover habits and frameworks all designed to empower you so that you can teach in a way that feels authentic and natural. For some episodes, I'll have a guest, and other episodes I'll share with you on my own, and in each one, you'll always get action steps and takeaways you can apply right away to your teaching. In addition to the podcast, follow me on Instagram and TikTok for daily videos. You'll see a link on both of my profiles, my Stan Store link. Click it and unlock ways you can get the support you need to be the teacher of your dreams. You'll find links to the podcast, my free ebook, and other resources to help you be the best teacher you can be. You'll also find the link to my signature program, the Yoga Anatomy Blueprint Learning Program, and you can see if you qualify to enroll. So with that, let's get on with today's show. Hi there. Welcome to Conversations for Yoga Teachers. I'm your host, Karen Fabian, and this is episode 330. And more importantly, this is the first episode of 2025. Of course, you could be listening to this any time of the year 2025 and beyond. However, I just want you to know that here, as I sit here to record this for you, it's January 2nd, 2025. So I'm still full of the energy of New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and of course, full of anticipation for not only what this month has to bring, but what this year has to bring. So I want to welcome you. If you're listening to this in the first month of 2025, I want to welcome you to the new year. And I'm sure that you've been getting a lot of messaging around the new year. I know there are just so many different ways we're inundated with New Year's content, whether it's have you set your resolutions, to have you set your exercise goals, to what are you letting go of, to what's in, what's out. There's just so many different frames of reference that come up at the beginning of a year. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I am going to toss my hat in the ring because this episode is going to give you another way to look ahead at 2025. And again, if you're listening to this at any time of year, this still will apply to you. You can still do the exercise I'm going to take you through on this episode. If you are listening in the first month of 2025, it's a perfect time to do it. But remember, the calendar keeps rolling on. So you can do this any time of year and it still will be just as powerful. So the first thing I want to do is give you a sense, and I'm just looking at my notes here. So if you're watching on YouTube and you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. And if you are a listener and you've never tried the video version of the podcast, I definitely encourage you to try it out. You might actually enjoy more of the sort of interactive nature of seeing the podcast in recorded form. So if you do want to do that, go to my YouTube channel. And the easiest way to get to it is you can go to my website and click YouTube. You can go to my Instagram and in the highlights section, click YouTube. Those are the easiest ways to get there. It's sort of hard if you just go directly to YouTube and type in Bare Bones Yoga, because there's not that there's another Bare Bones Yoga brand out there, but it's just more direct to go to the link right off of my website or right off of my Instagram. Okay, so by the end of today's episode, you will have a plan for 2025 or whatever 12-month time frame works for you, depending on when you're listening to it. You're going to have what I really think is probably a very different way to look ahead at the year. And it's based in a particular approach. And my guess is you probably haven't ever heard of this before. So this is probably going to be a brand new thing for you, which I'm really psyched for, because I know a lot of the messaging around create an exercise plan, create a nutrition plan, etc., is sort of tired. Like we sort of recycle these same themes over and over again every year. This is going to be new for you, and I'm really excited for you to dip your toe in the water on it. Now, the other thing I want to say, and this is new, so I really want your focus here if you're multitasking, because I want to share with you, over the past 2 weeks, I've decided that I'm going to expand my brand beyond just yoga teachers to really women in general. And it could work also for men. It's just that I want to create a support system for women in particular, because some of the things that women face are unique to them. Although if you're a man and you're listening to this, it will work for you as well. And so I don't really want to go into too much detail right now. Just know that if you're listening to this and you are a yoga teacher and you love the content that's focused on teachers, you're still going to get that. And if you're listening and you're not a yoga teacher, maybe you're in another area of fitness, or maybe you're just a woman or a person who is interested in bettering themselves, who's interested in mindset topics, who's interested in physical exercise and nutrition and wellness in general, this is going to be for you too. And this is really part of my vision for expanding my brand, Bare Bones Yoga. I'm going to be, in the coming weeks, in the coming months, throughout this year, offering things that are not just for yoga teachers. However, they will always be for yoga teachers, because my vision for the brand is to support to support the health and wellness of women. And so because of that, you as a yoga teacher, if that's you listening now, you are going to benefit from the expanded offerings that I will be offering. And you as a yoga teacher, if that's who you are listening, are also going to continue to get yoga teacher specific content. So it's a win-win. What I hope this does is gives more women an opportunity to connect with me and to benefit from some of the mindset lessons, some of the more global, holistic wellness, nutrition, exercise, mindset topics that I'll be sharing about. And so I will say, if you are a listener and you're a yoga teacher and you have a mom, you have a sister, you have a girlfriend, you can refer them to listen to this particular episode as the kickoff to content that will be applicable to them. I don't know if I'm going to change the name of this podcast from Conversations for Yoga Teachers to Conversations for Women. I think I might actually start a companion podcast. For right now, we're going to keep all of the content here right on this channel. So the point is, this conversation I'm going to have with you today is relevant for any woman of any age at any time in their life. It's not just for yoga teachers. And then the last thing I'll say on this particular topic is, a lot of the work I do with yoga teachers involves the mindset piece, and it involves helping them move past limiting beliefs that they have that block them from teaching in a really confident and authentic way. And what I always say to teachers when we start to go through these conversations, and these conversations happen in the context of working with them in my signature program, which is called the Yoga Anatomy Blueprint Learning Program. And what I always say to them is, your quest to be a better teacher is going to help you have a better relationship with yourself, because the essence of you as a yoga teacher is sharing the essence of you as a person. And if you have limiting beliefs about you as a person, that will come through. And so that's why it sort of hit me over the holidays. There are so many lessons that I'm currently sharing that are framed in the context of being a better yoga teacher that I can share with more women in the context of living your best life. And why would I be gatekeeping that content? Why would I be gatekeeping those lessons? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So that was, my mission is to help, as right now or prior to January 1st, to help as many yoga teachers as possible get out there and teach amazing classes and feel amazing doing it. And I said to myself over the holidays, why am I limiting the scope of the work I do to working with just yoga teachers? Why don't I broaden the lens, broaden the aperture, broaden the framework to working with women? And so what that really allows me to do is speak to confidence as a challenge that women have. And this is why I sort of made the distinction between women and men, because women in particular face different challenges around confidence at different points in their life. And I don't want to go into too much of my thoughts on that now. Again, just know that what we're going to go over today is going to be applicable to any woman, any age, any time of their life. So please share it and help me start to get the word out about what I can offer to your friends, to your family members who are women. So you're going to walk away with an action plan, with a framework for creating an action plan that I pretty much bet will be a unique one you've not heard of before. So what I want to first introduce to you is the concept of a particular area of study, and it's called Neurolinguistic Programming. If you're a longtime listener of the podcast, you've heard me mention NLP before. Neurolinguistic Programming, or NLP, is a particular discipline that helps us understand how does our mind work and how can we leverage the power of the mind and how can we recognize different things that our mind does that maybe limit the way we look at the world. And I want you to first notice I'm making a distinction between mind and brain, and we can sort of go into the philosophy behind that. For right now, though, think of the brain more from the biological sense, the brain and the central nervous system and its relationship to movement, its relationship to hormone balance, its relationship to, being the central component of our humanness from a medical or biological standpoint. And think of the mind more in sort of the existential way, more in sort of the way of being way, the who we are from the point of view of how do we carry ourselves, what beliefs do we have about ourselves, how do we see the world, how were we raised, and how does that shape what we say and what we do and how we feel and how we interact with other people. That lives in sort of the construct that I'm calling the mind. And I'm sure there's lots of definitions out there. For purposes of this conversation, that's the distinction. So neurolinguistic programming helps us understand how does our mind work and how does our mind shape what we do and how we do it. And certainly if you've been a listener of this podcast, I've spent hours and hours and hours of episodes talking about limiting beliefs that yoga teachers have. I've shared stories of women I've worked with who have been terrified to stand in front of a room and teach their yoga class, and they go back to practicing with them with their students because they feel a safety in practicing with them, and how having eyes on them is very triggering and it brings them back to experiences they had as a child. Just different stories I've shared that really illustrate just the impact of some of the beliefs that we have about ourselves. And so in this study of neurolinguistic programming, we have a particular way of and techniques to examine how we think, how we act, and really try to shape those behaviors so that we can live the most fruitful, bountiful, enjoyable, prosperous life possible. So with that, inside this study of neurolinguistic programming is a particular way to make a decision, and it's called the well-formed outcome. The well-formed outcome. And at this point in the episode, if you have a pen and paper, you might want to start taking notes, because this is one of those things that you're going to want to go back, or I would highly recommend you go back and use what I'm going to share with you, personalize it to yourself, and use it to create your plan for 2025. So this idea of a well-formed outcome is a very unique way, grounded in NLP, to map out a plan. And it takes into consideration some of the limiting beliefs you might have about yourself that have blocked you in the past from really living the life you want to live. I can give you an example here. If you're listening to this in January 2025, think about one or two of the things you wanted to do in 2024 that you didn't do. right? So I'll give you a second, just think, think of one thing you really wanted to do in 2024 that you didn't. Maybe you wanted to travel. Maybe you wanted to offer a new yoga class. Maybe you wanted to be on social media more and start a brand, whatever it is. And then ask yourself, why didn't you do that thing? Why didn't you do the thing? And just start to let your mind come up with the reasons. And we won't really get into dissecting the reasons now. It's not so much about the reasons as it is about what the body just starts to sort of reactively do. It starts to justify why we didn't do what we didn't do. Now, granted, if there was something outside of your control, that's different, right? Like I went into 2023 with a plan to do a lot of traveling. And in the middle of 2023, Ben got diagnosed with esophageal cancer. So my travel plans for the second half of 2023 went away because I wanted to be here to take care of him. And that extended into 2024. So now, as I head into the beginning of 2025, we are going to go away in January of 2025, this month. So I had to put my travel plans on hold. Although we did go to Paris in October of 2024, because that was the first time he was well enough to travel. So that was out of my control. For you, as you hear this, I want you to pick something that was totally within your control and you still didn't do it. And ask yourself, why didn't I do that thing? And you'll start to have your mind start to bubble to the surface the reasons why. And then those reasons are probably limiting beliefs. And so what this well-formed outcome approach is going to do is give you a way to start to call that forth right at the start so that you're already kind of knocking those limiting beliefs down at the beginning and getting them out of the way. And it puts you in a better position to move forward and really reach the goal or be the person that you want to be or whatever you desire to make that happen. And again, keep in mind, you can frame this from the point of view of a yoga teacher. So if you're a yoga teacher and you're listening to this, you're obviously for a long, long time, you've been my primary audience. And you might say to yourself, yoga related things. Like in 2024, I really wanted to be the kind of yoga teacher who did the walk and talk. And instead, if I'm really honest with myself, I spent most of 2024 on my own yoga mat, practicing with my classes. And here it is a new year. And I really want to be the kind of teacher who walks around more. So again, there's no shame here. This is not about shaming yourself. This is about holding yourself accountable in a way without shame, in a way without blame. That's a very different thing. Those are the actions of someone who's living intentionally versus someone who's living reactively. I'll give you one more framework to think about. I was listening to the Rich Roll podcast the other day, and he had a neuroscience on, and forgive me, I can't remember the person's name, but he was speaking about his work as a physician and one of the patients he saw. And she had an experience. She was a Holocaust survivor. She is a Holocaust survivor. And she had a number of ways that she looked out at the world that was absolutely shaped by her experiences as a child. And I won't go into all the horrific detail, but it was horrific. And one of the things that she and he were speaking about was a question that that came to her mind, or maybe a question, maybe she ended up being a therapist. I can't remember the context, but the question was, when you are on your deathbed, what are the things that you would regret not having done? And, sometimes people think of the literal things, like I wish I would have traveled more, or I wish I would have spent more time with my family instead of spending so much time at work. That particular idea came up a lot in this particular podcast conversation, because I think so many people can relate to this idea of working too hard and not spending enough time with their family. The thing, though, that I found interesting, and this is where that conversation went, and this part really resonated with me, was being on your deathbed and looking back at your life and not necessarily having regret for things you didn't do, experiences you didn't have, or not having regret for the not spending enough time with your family. What about having regret for not being the kind of person you really wanted to be? And the reason that really resonated with me is because I am someone who really pushes themselves a lot. And as a result, I can be the kind of person who rushes around the house all day, has a long list of to-dos every day, is sort of operating at a low-grade, frantic, stressed level all day. And I give off that energy. And so Ben and I live together and he picks up on it. He's completely the opposite. He's a very relaxed, low-key guy. And I will say that if I died a week from now or a month from now, I would regret not changing that way of being that I have. And I know I can change it because there have been episodes in my life where I have changed it, where I've changed my mindset. It's just that it doesn't stick. And so it's a constant remembering for myself when I start to feel myself getting frantic, to start to feel my feet on the floor, do some breathing exercises, bring myself back into that mindset that, hey, yes, I've got a long to-do list. And if it doesn't all get done, it's okay. I work for myself. I don't work for anybody else. I'm in charge, or whatever reframe I do at the time. So I want you to hear that, because the way of being example I just gave you relative to me, that's really the stuff that matters. Like, that's the stuff that, like, yes, the travel, yes, the money, yes, the house, yes, the time with family obviously matters. And the stuff in my mind that really matters is your relationship with yourself, because everything else is an offshoot of that. So if you're traveling, but if you're really super stressed in the way that I just described, then what good is it? You're going to be stressed even on vacation. If you constantly blame yourself for certain actions or are hard on yourself, you're carrying that with you throughout your whole life, throughout everything you're doing. So I wanted to bring that up as an exercise for you to do, to ask yourself the somewhat morbid question of, if you were to die tomorrow, what are the things that you would wish you had changed? Because guess what? Almost every single person, and Ben's a perfect example, although he doesn't admit this to me, I just know from, just my reading I've done and my work in clinical settings, people who are, I lost my train of thought. People who are, sort of at the end stage, that, these are the sorts of things that come to their mind that they wish they could have changed. So when you have an opportunity, like a second chance at life, like, again, someone like Ben, who was cured of cancer, or anybody in your life, maybe who was cured of cancer, you'll hear them say, it's like I have a second lease on life. And all those things that used to upset me don't upset me anymore. And wouldn't it be amazing if we could live our life like that right now, without having to go through the horror of a cancer diagnosis or another medical problem that we had to live through to learn the lesson that, oh my God, I can be the kind of person I want to be. It's in my control. It's not in a control that's outside of me. It's in my own control. And wouldn't it be amazing to have that realization and to take the required action and not have the precursor be that I almost died from cancer or something else? So you have an amazing opportunity right now to do the thing. And the framework I'm going to share with you will help you do it. So I am going to refer to my NLP book, which has the well-formed outcome in it. And I'd highly recommend you buy the book. It's called Neurolinguistic NLP, The Essential Guide. And it's by Tom Hooybar, Hoobyar. So this is when you want to get your pen and paper ready, if you are going to write down the steps in the well-formed outcome. And I'll just give you a little highlight. I am going to be doing a workshop in January. I think it's like the 14th or 15th. So stay tuned on my Instagram for the link to join that workshop. We're going to go through a journal exercise that's very much based on what we're going to go over here. Okay. So number one is we have to first define, what is your goal? So I want you to think about the well-formed outcome as it relates to one specific goal. one specific thing you want. So this is something you could do over and over again for different goals. So maybe if you're going to write something out that's yoga teaching related, you do this for that. And then you want to write one out that's life related or marriage related or finance related, you write separate ones out for that. So the first thing, let's just pick one. The first question is the following: what specifically do you want? So I want you to be really clear on what it is that you want. If you're writing down, you're going to pause the audio or pause the video, and then we'll come back to it. So this idea is now to get your brain going with what is it exactly that you want? What are we focusing on here? Now, question 2, how will you know when you've achieved what you want? So this is an interesting question, because what this basically highlights is you want to know when you get what you want. And depending on how specific your goal is, it might make a difference. If what I want is $10,000 in the bank, it's going to be pretty clear when I get what I want. If what I want is to have less stress in my life, how am I going to exactly know when I've hit that goal? So depending on what you want, that's going to define how will you know when you have it. So, there's lots of different ways we can get into this, and I'll get into it more when I have the January workshop. So stay tuned for the details on that. It's just now an opportunity for you to start to get your thoughts going in this way. So maybe pause this and turn back on if you're going to be writing down now. So question number 3, where, when, and with whom do you want it? So the objective of this question is to determine if the goal is ecological. And by that, he means if it makes sense for you. Because oftentimes we have a goal and we don't ask ourselves the question, where, when, and with whom do you want it? And then once we're working towards the goal, we start to realize it doesn't really work for us. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a goal when I was a new yoga teacher to teach for Baron Baptiste. He was my first teacher. I trained under him, and I really had a goal of teaching for him. And I did a whole bunch of things. I had a long plan of action, or not a long plan, but I had a plan of action that involved volunteering at the studio, developing a relationship with other teachers, et cetera, et cetera. And when I did get hired to teach for him, which was the goal I wanted, I quickly realized that teaching at the studio in downtown Boston didn't really match me living in, where was I living? Oh, I was living in West Roxbury at the time, which, if you know anything about Boston, basically means it was quite a commute to get from my house in West Roxbury to the studio in downtown Boston. And so what I engineered was a plan to sell my house and buy a condo in downtown Boston. And I ended up buying a condo in Charlestown. It was now just 10 minutes to get to the studio, and that worked out. If I had thought of that before, I would have done that before. So that's what I mean about start to map out where, when, and with whom do you want whatever it is that you want. Okay, so the next question is, okay, this question is really the kicker. Okay, so think about the first answer you put down for what specifically do you want, and now ask yourself for question number 4, what stops you from having your desired outcome already? When I asked myself this question with regard to the first time I went through this and what I wrote down that I wanted, I cried, because I realized what was really stopping me from having the outcome I wanted was just a bunch of limiting beliefs I had about myself. It wasn't anything logical. It wasn't anything like a physical barrier. It wasn't anything like an intelligence thing. It wasn't anything like I needed to take a course or a program. It was literally just limiting beliefs. I didn't believe I could do it. And so this is why this particular question is so powerful, because when you ask yourself, what stops you from having the desired outcome I want right now, that's when the really juicy, good stuff comes to the surface that you want to work on. so that you can, just like we said at the beginning, you don't want to be on your deathbed thinking, geez, I wish I would have been easier on myself, because at the end of the day, all I got out of being such a hard ass on myself is a lot of stress. Like, who wants to be on their deathbed and realize their whole life they just beat themselves up internally, and all it did was create a bunch of stress and grief and everything else for themselves? Like, that's why the things that really move the needle forward in the joy that you'll have in your life and the fulfillment you're going to have in your life are not really the material things. This is also outlined when we look at movie stars and we look at celebrities who have tons of money and they end up overdosing and they end up self-harming and doing all these different things. It's such a reflection of the real challenges in life are not solved by having a lot of money. Right? And so this is why this particular question really starts to bubble these things to the surface. Okay, so question number 5, what resources will you need to help you create what you want? So there are 2 parts to this step. First, what resources do you already have that will contribute to getting your outcome? And second, what additional resources will you need? So this falls logically. I mean, certainly if you're hearing this as a yoga teacher and you want to get better at anatomy, you're going to want to hire somebody who's an expert to teach it to you. And you can always enroll in my program, and in no time at all, you'll be an expert in anatomy. I'll walk you through it, lickety split. It'll be fun and easy, and just enrolling in my program will help you get there. So that's just one example. Depending on what your goal is, you may decide you need other resources to get the job done, to get that goal, to reach that goal. So this is where, and keep in mind, if some of what you're focusing on has to do with this inner work, you may need to hire or want to hire a therapist or a hypnotherapist or an astrologist or a human design expert, or there's a body worker there, maybe a whole host of people to work with you and come at it from the inner work. I mean, now more than ever, there are so many experts that focus on different parts of the being, or maybe let me say it differently. They focus on the whole being. It's just that their approach might be a little different. So this is the time to start to really invest in expert help if the work that you're looking to do is inner focused. And then the last question, how are you going to get there? Without action, a goal is just an idea. In addition to a timeline, a useful plan breaks the who, what, how, when, and where into manageable chunks. So that's sort of a quick run through of the well-formed outcome. And I want you to remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm showing the book right now, NLP, The Essential Guide, written by Tom Hooybar, Hooybar. And, if you are listening on audio only, I'll include the link to the book in the show notes of the episode. So with that, we've covered the well-formed outcome, and now you have the plan. So at the beginning of the episode, I said, hey, you're going to leave this episode with a plan of action for whatever you desire in 2025. And I've checked that box. You have your plan. So the first thing that I would offer you to do is to go through those 6 questions and map out exactly what you want for 2025. Now, here's a resource that can help you. And this dovetails nicely with this whole conversation we've had. In December of 2024, I launched my brand new month-to-month membership called the Yoga Teacher Confidence Club. And I've had a whole bunch of yoga teachers enroll in the club in the month of December. For just $29 a month, you can get access to exclusive workshops, live workshops, where I will be covering cueing, sequencing, anatomy, and mindset. So in the Yoga Teacher Confidence Club, you will have access to those live workshops. Every single workshop will be recorded. So if you miss one of them, it'll be in the video portal. And in the portal, you'll also get access to some of my best teaching tools for yoga teachers that cover all those different topics, as well as other lesson content that I'll just put in there to continue to help you build your confidence and skill. For just $29 a month, you can access the Yoga Teacher Confidence Club. It's so easy and so much fun. The first workshop we had was amazing. So to join, You can send me a DM. I'll send you the link. The link will be in the show notes to this episode. That's another way to get to it. You could also get to the link in my Instagram. The link is in my bio. So the Yoga Teacher Confidence Club, just $29 a month. And you can just join for a month. So less than 30 bucks. Just join for a month, see if you like it, or you can stay. I have a feeling you're going to absolutely love it and you're going to stay for many months. But there's no minimum. So it's not like when you sign up, you have to be in the club for 3 months or more. You can just try it for a month if you want. And then if you don't like it, you can leave. But I really think you're going to love it. It's so unique and it's not something you can get anyplace else. It's the community, it's the support, it's the training all in one. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is if you do watch this on YouTube, please leave me a comment and say hi or ask a question, because the more comments I get on the videos, the more YouTube will push the content out to other yoga teachers and women. And I really want to get the word out more about the show. That's one of my goals for 2025 is to get more people listening and watching the show. So leave a comment, ask a question if you're watching this on YouTube. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this might sound kind of weird, but a lot of times I buy things on Amazon and I just absolutely love them. And I want to tell people, but I don't have a way to do it. So I've set up a page right off of my website called Shop With Me. And I started to link a whole bunch of things that I buy for myself that I would love to share with you. Now, yes, I do get a really small commission if you buy something off the link, but it's not about that. I mean, I think it's like pennies. It's more about me just having a way to collect the things I buy that I love and to share it with you. So I wanted to let you know on my Shop With Me link on my website, which is barebonesyoga.com, I have a brand new sweatsuit that I bought. And I say sweatsuit, which is kind of something from the 70s. It's a sweatshirt and sweatpants, but they go together. So it's matchy-matchy, but the quality is so great. And it's in that beautiful, rich navy color. You can get it in any color you want. And the comfort level is amazing, but it looks really elevated. So if you're the kind of woman who likes to run to Starbucks or run out and do errands on a Saturday, and you don't want to look really schleppy like you just rolled out of bed, you can put this set on, and because it matches, it looks really unified, and the quality is great, the comfort's great, and I really think you'll love it. So take a look at that. You'll see it as the most recent addition on my Amazon Shop With Me link. And then the last thing I'll say is in July of 2024, I wrote a brand new ebook. So it's still pretty new, and it's called The Bare Bones Yoga Guide to Incredible Yoga Teaching. And the link to that will be in the show notes. It's a soup to nuts guide. It will really get you started with cueing and sequencing and anatomy. If you've been teaching for a while, it's a great way to come up with new strategies and approaches so that you can just really feel like you're on point with your sequencing and your cueing and just have more time in the bank for you rather than spending a whole lot of time prepping for your classes. So with that, we've come to the end of the show, this particular episode, and I want to thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I wish you all the best in 2025, and I can't wait to chat with you again on Conversations for Yoga Teachers. Thank you so much, and I'll chat with you in the next episode. Bye-bye. Thanks for being here with me today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And hey, one more thing. While I don't know you personally, I know what a yoga teacher looks like who's ready to have a breakthrough to being the kind of yoga teacher who walks around the room, sharing cues you know the reason for, understands anatomy, teaching signature sequences without notes or any need to practice with class, and loves teaching yoga without stress, anxiety, or nervousness. If you are ready to be that yoga teacher, here is your next step. DM me the words podcast offer, and I will give you a special incentive to work with me inside of my signature program just because you are listening to the podcast. DM me on Instagram at Bare Bones Yoga. I can't wait to hear from you.